Welcome in to Headliners Unfiltered, raw sports, raw energy, and of course, when your boy is here hosting raw calves as well. Hopefully everyone's doing well today, Thursday, January 15th. I forgot the date. What's going on, everybody? Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully today has been a great day so far. It is 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And we've got breaking news this morning, earlier this morning, so it's not really breaking news anymore, as a majority of people probably know about it. One of the first head coaching candidates off the board, and it's one of the last head coaches to actually be fired. And it's John Harbaugh, headed to the New York Giants. So we are going to kick off Headliners Unfiltered by talking about the repercussions of John Harbaugh going to the New York Giants. Is it a good hire? Who is it good for? What's the timeline for winning in New York? And what this looks like for everybody else around him. I don't really think you're going to find anybody out there that believes that the John Harbaugh hire for the New York Giants is a bad one. I don't think you're going to find anybody. To me, he was the top head coaching candidate on the market. He's a proven winner. He has a Super Bowl. He has years of experience. And frankly, not entirely sure why he was even fired in the first place. I know in some places you just decide we need change. We need to move on. We need to do something different, whatever it may be. Some places just need change. And it sounds like that's what Baltimore felt like they needed. There was some discourse between John Harbaugh and ownership about what direction this team should go. I think the Baltimore Ravens were wildly unlucky this year when it came to injuries and other things as well. And they were still, 5 feet of a missed field goal away from going to the playoffs. And if Tyler Loop hits that field goal, we're probably not talking about John Harbaugh being fired. And I know their owner the other morning said, yeah, he would have survived another week. It sounds like what he was saying is that Harbaugh was going to be let go regardless of what happened in the playoffs this year. And I don't believe that whatsoever. Jesse with the $5 super chat. Good morning from Chicago, my sweet snuggle bear boy. Arthur Smith to Detroit. We'll talk about that in a minute. I am not rooting for that, and I certainly do not hope that happens. Hopefully everyone's buckled in. Hopefully you got your protein, your water. I've got my water. I got my ice water, keeping me hydrated. Literally finished my protein coffee right before I went live, so we know that the caffeine is flowing through the veins right now, so we're going to have a great live show today. Todd Monken, absolutely, OEG official. Todd Monken will be going to the New York Giants with John Harbaugh. And it sounds like that may have been some of the discourse in Baltimore, that the ownership wanted to make a change at offensive coordinator. And by doing that, John Harbaugh basically said no. And then they said, well, we can make a change, or we can make a change at head coach. And he said, all right, see ya. Something along those lines. I don't know how accurate that is. Those were some of the reports out there. But Todd Monken, I think is huge for the New York Giants to get along with John Harbaugh. Now, when Monken was hired out of Georgia 3 seasons ago, it was considered a great hire. He was the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach for the University of Georgia for 3 seasons, won a national championship there, and Todd Monken was a hot name to move to the NFL as an offensive coordinator. He did that, joined John Harbaugh in Baltimore. And the first 2 seasons that Todd Monken was with the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson finished as the MVP. And then the year after that finished second to Josh Allen in MVP voting. 2 seasons inside the top 2 of MVP voting for Lamar Jackson, along with John Harbaugh and Todd Monken as his coaches. And now these guys are going to go to New York, and they get to coach another young quarterback that has a lot of Lamar Jackson-esque qualities. And that's a guy that I absolutely loved last offseason. Chat, let me know in the chat. Spam it in the chat. Who remembers me talking about Jackson Dart in January of last year as being a guy that would be the number 2 quarterback pick, in my opinion, and could even challenge for being the top quarterback pick, even though I would have been shocked for that to happen. And he goes as the second quarterback. Shedeur Sanders nowhere close to that. If you have been here, if you were here last offseason, you remember me talking about how good I thought Jackson Dart could be. And we saw him showcase that this past year as a rookie. And he's got a lot of Lamar Jackson-esque qualities. He makes plays with his legs. He is dynamic on the ground. He's not Lamar Jackson dynamic. He's not as fast, not as twitchy, but it doesn't really matter. He can pick up a lot of yards on the ground. He can score touchdowns on the ground. You can bake things into your offense just like Todd Monken did in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson, with Jackson Dart in New York. So you don't even have to really change the entirety of your offensive scheme that you had in Baltimore that made Lamar Jackson a top 2, I don't want to say made, but helped make Lamar Jackson a top 2 MVP candidate for 2 of the 3 years that Todd Monken was in Baltimore. And you could probably argue that if Lamar Jackson doesn't get hurt this past season, he's probably looking at being at least top 5 in MVP voting again, if it hadn't been for the injury. He was injured and then banged up all year. In the back half of the year, you can tell he wasn't right, and they just couldn't get anything going with him. If he stays healthy this year, you're probably talking about things a whole lot different about Lamar Jackson. And now this coaching staff goes to New York, and they get to work with a similar quarterback in Jackson Dart. Now, when it comes to throwing the football, Jackson Dart, wildly talented when it comes to throwing the football. A really strong arm, very strong arm. Accuracy will be a thing that he continues to work on. With a lot of young quarterbacks, that's always a thing that they're working on. Continued consistency with your accuracy in the passing game. And that's something that was an issue with Lamar Jackson, or was considered a big issue with Lamar Jackson when he came out of college. Accuracy issues, throwing over the middle of the field, those intermediate routes, hitting those guys on a consistent basis, and being accurate with those passes, not turning the ball over. It's somewhere Jackson Dart's going to have to continue to grow, and he's going to have to get better. And if he does get better in that area, he's going to be looking at a pretty decent campaign in 2026. A lot of people remember it. WJM remembers it. Eduardo, Brian, Lorenzo, OEG. A lot of people remember me talking about Jackson Dart last offseason. And I actually just told Discord a few minutes ago, good luck to everybody trying to control my enthusiasm for the New York Giants offense heading into 2026. Now, there is one area that I think Jackson Dart has a little bit of a step forward in than what Lamar Jackson did earlier in his career. And that's some of the processing things that you do as a quarterback that I talked about a lot last year. And again, you all might remember me talking about this when I did film breakdowns, when I did different things talking about Jackson Dart. there was one area of his game that I absolutely loved that I felt like younger quarterbacks do not do a good enough job of their first year or two in the NFL. And it's using your eyes to manipulate defenses. And during Jackson Dart's last year at Ole Miss, he did exactly that. You could see on video where Jackson Dart would use his eyes and use his head to make safeties think he was going to go one way, pull those safeties that direction, and then be able to hit his wide receiver, who is actually his target, on the outside or deeper down the field after those safeties had been pulled out of the play. And why is that significant? Well, it's significant because it puts your number one target in a lot of one-on-one possibilities. If you're facing a defense that's going to play safeties over the top to keep a team from hitting those big plays, you're not going to be able to go down the field on 1v2 coverages the entire day. You might get lucky every once in a while, but really your goal as an offensive coordinator, as a quarterback, as an offense, is to get those safeties if they're playing over the top, closer to the box. And that's why running the football is so effective in terms of making deeper pass plays available to you. Because when you run the ball well, you pull safeties closer to the box. And when you pull safeties closer to the box to help stop the run, that's when you get one-on-one coverage over the top. So what Jackson Dart would do is they would go into their pass play and he would use his eyes in his head to make a safety think that he was actually looking at a target to be his number one guy. Whether it was somebody down in the flat, whether it was somebody over the middle, whether it was some sort of crossing route, a post, something to get that safety to draw in towards the box or towards the middle of the field. And then when he did that, he would attack one-on-one opportunities with his number one wide receiver out in the boundary. That's significant for a young quarterback. And it's something I talked about a lot last year and why I felt like Jackson Dart was going to be able to make a jump to starting as an NFL quarterback potentially a little bit quicker than what other NFL quarterbacks do. I didn't know if he was going to start last year, and I think that it worked out fabulous that he got his feet wet this past season. Because now John Harbaugh is getting a quarterback in Jackson Dart that isn't just a fresh quarterback. He's not coming into the year working with a second-year quarterback that has limited snaps on offense. No, he's working with a quarterback that got a ton of snaps on offense this past season and was wildly effective as well. And that was with changes at the head coaching position, changes with who was calling plays. And when you do that to a younger quarterback, it can kind of throw things off. And it didn't for Jackson Dart. And now John Harbaugh is getting a guy that is a little bit more seasoned than what he had with Lamar Jackson when he was coaching him his rookie season. Does everyone remember that? Joe Flacco, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson would go out and maybe play a little bit of quarterback. Joe Flacco would be on the field with him, or Lamar Jackson would go out to wide receiver in the slot, whatever it may have been. And he would find himself on the field. Lamar Jackson was a good NFL prospect. Anybody that asked him to change positions clearly wasn't doing their homework on Lamar Jackson, and I'm glad that it worked out. But we're looking again at the same coaching staff that helped make Lamar Jackson a top 2 MVP candidate in 2023 and in 2024. And now they're getting Jackson Dart, who has a lot of the same capabilities that Lamar Jackson had. There's something that I would also argue about this situation. And I think it's a situation that offensively is better than what the Baltimore Ravens have had over the last couple of years. Now stay with me here, because I think a lot of you might disagree with that, or you might want to at least hear my explanation on this. Well, here's the thing. When you take a look at what Baltimore has had over the last couple of years, they've had Lamar Jackson and they've had Derrick Henry. I'm not a big Zay Flowers fan. He's not a wide receiver one for me. He is closer to Devontae Smith if he had A.J. Brown alongside him. A guy that's going to have some big games, but realistically, more times than not, he's not the type of wide receiver that can do everything on the field and do everything well. Now, in New York, you've got that with Malik Neighbors. And we'll do just a quick timeout on this and just make sure that we verify. Malik Neighbors is not fully healthy as of yet. After week 18, he was seen in a knee brace with a walking cane. And there's a lot of speculation as to why. Because if he only tore his ACL, he should not still be in that position this far removed from the ACL injury. So being updated on him throughout the season is going to be very, very critical. But if he's 100% healthy, Malik Neighbors is twice the wide receiver that Zay Flowers is. And Zay Flowers has been the wide receiver one the last couple of years for the Baltimore Ravens. Number two, they have a very solid wide receiver two. Something that it feels like Baltimore has been chasing now for a couple of years. They've tried the DeAndre Hopkins experiment. They had Rashad Bateman. They paid him, but he's really just a big play threat every once in a while. He's not a guy that consistently contributes. And one thing we've seen from Wan'Dale Robinson is he can consistently contribute. Does he have a high ceiling every single week? No, he doesn't. But you don't need that from your wide receiver too. And the best part about it is you've got Wan'Dale Robinson who can work over the middle. He can work the flats. He can work the crossers. He can get mismatch out of the slot. He can do a lot of things underneath to help pull those safeties in. And then you've got Malik Neighbors that can win anywhere on the field. Number three, I would argue that the tight end position in New York is just as strong as what it was in Baltimore. No disrespect to Mark Andrews, no disrespect to Isaiah Likely, but Daniel Bellinger and Theo Johnson are very good tight ends. And the thing about both of these guys is that they're not just good receiving weapons, but they're good on the line as well. You can run a bunch of 12 personnel with both of these guys on the field, and you can run the football effectively because both of these guys can block at the tight end position as well. I wouldn't say that Mark Andrews at his age now is all that great of a blocking tight end anymore, and Isaiah Likely has never been a blocking tight end. Isaiah Likely is a receiving threat, and that's basically it. So I would argue that the tight end position in New York is better than what it was in Baltimore. Number four, the run game. Now, King Henry obviously is above and beyond a majority of running backs in the NFL. Even at his age and even with as many touches as he has had over the course of his career, I would take Derrick Henry over a majority of running backs in the NFL. But I don't think that you have a bad 1-2 punch in Tyrone Tracy and Cam Skattebo. I wasn't the biggest Cam Skattebo fan coming out, and he is a guy that's going to have to learn to maybe not nearly take as much contact as he did this past season. Maybe it's good for him every once in a while to try and make a guy miss instead of burying the guy 6 feet under by running over him. But Tyrone Tracy has big playability. He's a decent receiver out of the backfield. He's explosive, a former wide receiver at Purdue converted to running back. We've seen him make some pretty big plays. And then you got Cam Skattebo, a guy that also is a decent receiver out of the backfield. He can run through guys. He can be your short yardage, your goal line back, and he can do a lot of things there very successful. So is the run game as good as it was in Baltimore? No, it's not, because Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry. But I think he can still be very, very solid to help keep defenses off balance. And what did I just say about a good run game? A good run game helps bring safeties into the box. And when you do that, you can win down the field with Jackson Dart and his big arm to Malik Neighbors on a more consistent basis. Now, when it comes to offensive line rankings, let me take a look at something real quick. In terms of offensive line rankings, the New York Giants finished as, I want to see where they were ranked on Pro Football Focus. The New York Giants offensive line was ranked number 9. And this is what PFF had to say. The Giants' offensive line surprised in 2025. The unit was ranked 30th in PFF pass blocking efficiency rating in 2024. That front placed 4th this year, all the way up at 87.6. After giving up 30 sacks in 2024, New York only surrendered 15 sacks this season. That's a pretty big jump. Now, some of that obviously can be due to the fact that you've had Russell Wilson and you've had other guys at quarterback in New York. Jackson Dart can help get away from some of those sacks. But based on Pro Football Focus, this is a top 10 offensive line. Will they be top 10 next year? Maybe. I don't know if I would guarantee that, but maybe they make an upgrade. Maybe they make a small change to the offensive line, and now all of a sudden, you're looking at an offensive line unit that is top 15. Still a very good situation. And that's why I'm going to have a very hard time not getting overly excited about Jackson Dart and the New York Giants offense heading into 2026. Let's get the pulse of the nation. WJM. We're underselling Henry. The man could have led the league in rushing if Monk wasn't an idiot. Man. You know, there was a lot of question marks about that this season and why they were not running the football nearly as much as they did, or why would they abandon the run at some certain points. And I get that. I do understand that. And I think that's a solid point. I think that is a solid point. I don't know. I don't know why they did that. And I don't know if we're going to see them necessarily do that in New York. My hope is that maybe they kind of learn from that a little bit, so that mistake is not made again, and that you still stay consistent running the football, so then you can keep defenses off balance and allow Jackson Dart to be extremely successful. So it'll be interesting to see that. But when you take a look at the numbers, I mean, it's Todd Monken with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson has 2 seasons as a top 2 MVP candidate. I'm not going to say Jackson Dart is even a top 5 candidate this year because he still has some areas of his game that he has to grow in, but he's definitely going to be exciting to watch in this offense. Brian says he wholeheartedly agrees. Kevin, if Theo can catch the ball more consistently, he will skyrocket. I agree with that. Some more consistency out of the tight end position. Brian feels like Theo is a sneaky pick at tight end this year. Eduardo, can you imagine Dart with a fully healthy season with neighbors? OMG, the East is going to be tough next year. And as Eduardo is a Cowboys fan. X in 1X. Playing from behind most of the year didn't help as well. Plus the Ravens' injured defense, not keeping them in the game most of the year was a contributor. I mean, that is a solid point too. That is a solid point too. Towards the beginning of the season, middle of the season, they were never really fully healthy. And because of that, it's tough. Because of that, it was tough watching them consistently try to run the football because they just weren't doing it. I have something in my eye, so I need to get that out. And the funny thing is I have recorded so much over the last day and a half that I almost forgot I was live, and I almost started to take a break like I normally would if I need to stop recording for a second. And then I was like, oh wait, no, I can't do that. We're live. My mind hadn't fully transitioned yet. Jerry, if we're getting King as an RB2, are we smashing that every time? I'm not going to go into detail on that as of yet because I think it's important for us to figure out who is going to be the offensive coordinator and head coach in Baltimore. There's a point that Jesse brought up a few minutes ago that I now want to talk about, and it's the fact, I mean, who here recycles? Who here recycles? I try my best to recycle. I'm not the best at it. I definitely throw some things away sometimes that I shouldn't. I don't do a good enough job recycling as maybe I should, and maybe I should pay better attention to that. But I mean, it shows, right? Recycling helps to save the world. There's a lot of good benefits to recycling, and maybe we should be doing more of that. Maybe we should be doing more recycling. But I can tell you one thing. Nobody's saving the world by recycling NFL head coaches. It's been announced that former head coach Mike McCarthy, he's getting a couple of job interviews. And I almost couldn't even go live today because I had to read over on X that the Detroit Lions are interviewing Arthur Smith for their open offensive coordinator position. If you've been a part of Headliner Nation for more than a few years, then you may remember a live stream a few years back. And this was, oh man, I don't think we had 100,000 viewers yet, or I don't think we had 100,000 subscribers yet. I still had a small office that was built inside of my garage. Jake's studio was still kind of his early setup, and we were live streaming during the NFL draft. And when the Detroit Lions drafted TJ Hawkinson with the top 10 pick, I lost my mind. If there's anybody here that remembers that reaction, then definitely put your hand up in the chat. I don't know if there is. My reaction will be 10 times worse if the Detroit Lions hire Arthur Smith. I swear to God. Dan Campbell is my guy. When Dan Campbell was hired, I balked at it. And I said to myself, I don't know about Dan Campbell. I don't love the opening press conference. But then Dan Campbell grew on me a little bit. And then at the NFL Combine, a couple of years back at the NFL Combine, we were working, and I decided to shoot my shot. It may have not been the most professional thing in the world to do, and I understand that, but I YOLO'd it. The first night that we were in Indianapolis, Jake, Taylor, and myself went over to the convention center where NFL head coaches and GMs were doing their press conferences. And one of the last press conferences was Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes. And I was like, absolutely, I'm going to go. I want to go see this. I want to go see what they had to say. Brad Holmes stood up there and did his press conference. Dan Campbell stood up there afterwards, did his press conference. And then a few minutes later, they're all done. They're walking out. And I look at Jake and Taylor and I say, I'll be back. Now, the convention center is attached to the hotels where NFL teams and prospects stay. So when players, prospects, coaches, GMs, scouts, whoever, when they get done at the convention center, they walk through the convention area back to the hotel. If you have media credentials or if you have NFL credentials, you are walking hand in hand with all of these guys. When we walk through the convention center, we see Andy Reid and the Kansas City coaches. We see Mike McDaniels. We see all sorts of coaches, and we're literally walking right with them the entire time. As they're talking and discussing about things through the day, Jake, myself, and Taylor are 2 steps next to them, listening to their entire conversation. It is a crazy experience to say the least. So I follow Brad Holmes and I follow Dan Campbell out, and I'm walking just a step behind Dan Campbell. He's having a conversation with somebody. He stops talking and he takes a sip of his coffee and he doesn't really continue to say anything. So this is when I kind of step up and I'm right next to him and I say, "Hey coach, I got a quick question for you." And he turns over and he says, "Yeah, man, what's up?" And I said, I want to see if you can give me a little bit of advice on something. My son just started playing tackle football this year, and I have seen him in a very short amount of time grow a love for something that I haven't really seen at his young age as of yet. He loves football. He's a massive Detroit Lions fan, and he thinks the world of you. Do you have one piece of information that I could take back to him? And I apologize for bothering you, but I would like to take him something back from this experience that I can share with him. Dan Campbell looks at me and he says, "Do you have your phone? I'll record a voice message for him." I don't think you understand what it meant to me to bring home to my son, who loves the Lions, who loves Dan Campbell, is a huge football fan, playing tackle football for the very first time, taking my phone and handing it to him and letting him hear a voice memo from Dan Campbell where he goes, "Hey," name redacted, "it's Dan Campbell from the Detroit Lions. I hear that you're loving football right now. Your dad asked me to share a message with you on some things that I would encourage you to do." And it was the epitome of a Dan Campbell speech. And he was like, when things are a little too tough, when it gets a little bit too hot, when things are just, when they don't feel like you can go any further, he said, find a little bit more. Like, it was just the coolest thing in the world. And from that moment there, I will always support Dan Campbell no matter what. When he goes for what feels like the dumbest fourth down in the world, I will support Dan Campbell. When he makes a decision to not kick a field goal from the 20-yard line when you probably should take the points, my God, I'm going to support Dan Campbell. When Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes decide that they're going to make this move in the offseason or they're not going to make this move or whatever it may be, my God, I am going to support Dan Campbell because he gifted me with one of those moments that I will never forget with my son. I swear to God, Dan, if you hire Arthur Smith, it's going to be really hard. It's going to be really hard. You're my guy, Dan Campbell. You're my guy. You're my coach. I will support you. But if you think Arthur Smith is going to do anything for your organization that is positive, I can't support that. I can't support that. I am not supporting hiring Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator in Detroit. The guy got gifted with Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown as an offensive coordinator in Tennessee. Do you know how many inept coaches at the NFL level, at the college level, at the high school level could coach and put together a good enough game plan to beat teams with Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown? It's not hard. It's not hard. Arthur Smith, you got a shot at being an NFL head coach because you had a guy that may go down as the greatest running back of all time in Derrick Henry and one of the most insane athletes at the wide receiver position in A.J. Brown. You didn't have to do too much. And Mike Vrabel was your head coach. You sucked as a head coach in Atlanta. You couldn't get Bijan Robinson right. You couldn't get the ball to Drake London. You couldn't, with those guys, with Drake London and Bijan Robinson, You couldn't even put together a top 10 offense. And then you go to Pittsburgh for the last 2 years, and you couldn't do anything there either. It's the same bland offense. It's the same bland play calling. You're not creative at all whatsoever. My pinky toe in this moment could draw a more creative picture than your entire body could come up with calling plays at the offense at the NFL level. Arthur Smith is a travesty to coaching in general. And he's a guy, and this may be a little bit too personal, and maybe I shouldn't go this route. Arthur Smith is a dude that's had everything handed to him in his life, and he continues to get handed coaching positions that he doesn't deserve at the NFL level. And how head coaches and front offices can't see this when everybody, if you go to Twitter right now and type in Arthur Smith, Detroit Lions, you are not going to find one person in the galaxy that agrees with you that Arthur Smith should be hired as the offensive coordinator in Detroit. Arthur Smith would be much better served by everybody by sitting his ass on his couch and watching football in 2026, not coaching it. And the worst part about it is he is a pompous a-hole, because this dude walks around and thinks that his S doesn't sting. I'm trying really not to cuss too much. He doesn't think his stinks. That's all there is to it. And that's the way he handled himself in Atlanta when he would be asked questions, valid questions, respectable, valid questions about how he was handling his offense in Atlanta. He would have the most smug answers like, how dare you ask me that question? I'm an NFL head coach, and you are nothing but a lowly NFL reporter. He's not a good coach. He's not a good offensive coordinator. He's got a bland offensive scheme. He doesn't do anything well as an offensive playmaker, offensive play caller. And he's pompous, arrogant, rude, condescending. And I don't think he's a fit for anybody, especially in Detroit. This cycle in the NFL where we continue to get head coaches, offensive coordinators recycled on a yearly basis makes no sense. Mike McCarthy was a solid head coach in Green Bay. His time has passed. He couldn't get the job done in Dallas with Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb. Why do we think Mike McCarthy should be getting NFL head coaching interviews right now? Go do TV. That's what Tony Dungy did. Go do TV. That's what Jason Garrett is doing. Go do TV. If you really want to stay around the game of football, that's fine. But get out of here. Get out of here, Mike McCarthy. Your time is up. When a team is looking for a new head coach and they're looking for a change in leadership, they should be thinking outside the box. Sometimes it makes sense to hire a proven veteran NFL head coach, like the Giants just did with John Harbaugh. But John Harbaugh, year after year, has had winning records, MVP candidates, Super Bowls, playoff chances. He would have more Super Bowls if it weren't for the fact that he lives in an era and coaches in an era where he had to deal with Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and the Chiefs on a yearly basis. That is when it makes sense to look at NFL head coaches that have experience. Mike McDaniels. I think he is best served as going somewhere where he can be a really good offensive coordinator for 1 to 2 years, and then he can have a shot at potentially better teams moving forward and better organizations moving forward. That is where it makes sense because he's one of the better offensive minds in all of football. And I don't feel like he got a fair shake in Miami. They dealt with injuries. He had Tua as his quarterback. He had to deal with the drama of Tyreek Hill after they traded for him. And he still found himself to be successful for a majority of the time. Stop recycling head coaches. It doesn't make any sense. You should be looking for the next great NFL head coach. A guy that has showcased abilities in certain positions. A guy that has worked his way up. Not been given everything like Arthur Smith. And I'll go ahead and change this over to Pulse of the Nation because I'm going to go to something WJM said about his dad owns FedEx. And he was... Where did my camera go? Where's my camera right now? My camera literally said F this. Hold on a second. Dude, and I was in such a good... I was in... Did my camera just die? Oh, we're back. Dude, we were on a roll. I am so upset right now. I was in the groove. I was in the groove. I broke the camera. That's what happened. The energy that is seeping out of my pores right now literally destroyed my camera almost. So maybe I need to tune it back. But like I was just saying about Arthur Smith, he's been handed everything. His dad owns FedEx. He's good friends with Arthur Blank. How do you think he got that job in Atlanta? Stop it. Stop it. And I have to just... You're going to have to give me a second because there is a name that I want to bring up and it's escaping me right now. So I have to go and try to find it. But it's a part of the point I'm trying to make. Let's see if... Was it Ian Rappaport? Here's one for you. Jesse Minter, defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Chargers. Oh yeah, Michigan only won a national title because they cheated. Or maybe they won a national title and became relevant because they had Mike McDonald and Jesse Minter there for a stretch of time as their defensive coordinators. One of which is now an NFL head coach and coaches the number one seeded team in the NFC, the Seattle Seahawks. The other one, Jesse Minter, had one of the best defenses in all of football the last 2 years with the LA Chargers, had one of the best defenses for 2 years at Michigan with the Wolverines, and is now being interviewed for every single head coaching interview. Why aren't we going with guys like Jesse Minter, a young up-and-coming defensive coordinator that clearly has had success at multiple levels and knows how to coach? Why are we not looking more at Jesse Minter? Huh? No, we're talking about Arthur Smith and Mike McCarthy right now. Where's the other guy's name that I was going to bring up? He's in Los Angeles. He's with the Rams. Sean McVay guy. Brian Flores is another one that I do think should have a shot. I think Antonio Pierce should get interviews as well. I do agree with those. I can't find his name right now. Oh yeah, here's another one. Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz getting an interview with the Baltimore Ravens. Jim Schwartz is a good defensive coordinator. That dude doesn't know what the heck he is doing on the sideline as an NFL head coach. Not LaFleur. Not Joe Brady. Isn't he the offensive coordinator for the Rams? It's not Mike LaFleur. Okay, so it's not for the Rams. Who is it? It's not him. But I'm probably mixing up teams. Anyway. Now it's killing me. Oh, no. No. It's the offensive coordinator for the Jags. Grant Udinski. That's who it is. Yeah, I don't know why I said Rams. I don't know why I was thinking Rams. It's Udinski, the offensive coordinator from Jacksonville. That's a guy. That is an up-and-comer. He should be interviewing for every single head coaching position. Everyone should be talking about him. Liam Cohen, clearly a good offensive mind. Did great things in Tampa Bay. Turned around Jacksonville in 1 year. Udinski working under him. He should be getting looks. Those are the guys that should be getting looks. Not Arthur Smith. Not Mike McCarthy. Are you kidding me? Josh, poor tackling is not because something's rigged. It's because in this day and age, players have more of a fantasy around hitting the opposing player as hard as they can to establish their dominance instead of simply having good tackling mechanics. That's what that is. And I see that all the way down at a youth level, whether it be youth or high school. Teaching kids to tackle well is not easy. And as they get older, they get more infatuated with, hey, if this guy has the ball in his hand, I want to absolutely lay the boom on them. And they're more interested in that. A lot of times, too, you'll see guys wrap up and then try to strip the ball instead of tackling, which makes sense sometimes, and it causes turnovers, but other times you probably should tackle better. So if the Detroit Lions hire Arthur Smith as their offensive coordinator, should I do a recorded video of me losing it? Should I do a recorded video of me losing it? Let's get interactive, chat. Let's get interactive. It's 12:48. Let's have some fun here to end the live stream. I want to get interactive with everybody. I want to get interactive. Let's go ahead and do a live chat mock draft. Let's talk about it from a fantasy football perspective. I'm going to pick, and then the chat's going to pick. And I want you all to come to an agreement on who you would take with your pick. We'll decide on who that is. Then it will be my turn to pick, and then it will be your turn to pick. A little bit, where's my piece of paper at? A little bit of a fun exercise. A little bit of a fun exercise to end Headliners Unfiltered today. Let's have some fun with it. Get ready to type. Get ready to interact. Give me your thoughts. We don't know who his offensive coordinator is going to be. But as of right now, Bijan Robinson would have to be my 1.01 in fantasy football. That would have to be my 1.01 in fantasy football. So if I'm going to draft Bijan Robinson at the 1.01, chat, who would you draft with the second overall pick? Who are you going with at the second pick? Try to come to a consensus. Whichever player is voted for the most, we will go that route. Who should be picked number 2? Bijan Robinson to me is a guy that I would assume that they bring in somebody offensive-minded to work with him and everybody else. Gibbs, 1, 2, 3, right off the bat. Gibbs, right off the bat. We've got a Chase. We've got a CMC. Gibbs is leading the way right now, however. Gibbs is leading the way right now. One thing I need... Hold on, I got to open something up here real quick. Okay. We're going to go with Gibbs. Gibbs got the most votes. We're going to go with Gibbs. We're going to go with Gibbs. So at number 3 at this point, I think we have a few different routes that we could go here. One name that's going to be very interesting to me on how high they're drafted would be Devon Achane next year. I'd be very interested in seeing how high Devon Achane ends up being drafted. I think it's going to be interesting to see where guys like James Cook lands. What about Saquon Barkley? Are Saquon Barkley going to buy? Are people going to buy into Saquon Barkley kind of bouncing back? Do people trust Christian McCaffrey? Do people trust Christian McCaffrey? From a wide receiver position, I think you could argue Jamar Chase right here. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Jamar Chase at the 1.03. So chat, we're going back to you. Yeah, I'm not drafting Gibbs right now because we don't know about Arthur Smith. I'm going to go with Jamar Chase at the 1.03. In chat, you can keep the conversation going. Even after I say we're going to pick a player, even after I say, okay, we're going to go with this player, if you want to continue to talk about who you might take next, go for it. I'm seeing JSN. We're tied with JSN and Puka right now. We're tied with JSN and Puka. We got a third one for Puka. Puka, JSN or Puka. Got to pick one. Got to pick one. Philly, I'm going to operate under the assumption that Matthew Stafford is there. So I think at this point we're seeing a pretty big agreement. Puka or JSN. I think we're going with Puka there. Now, for me, when we take a look at that, coming back to me at this point, I would say I would go JSN at 5. I would go JSN at 5. I think Bijan and Gibbs are going to be the 1 and 2 next year, and then you're going to have some safety after that with Puka and JSN. I would agree with that. Jamar Chase is going to find his way in there as well. I'm going to go JSN at number 5. So then now back to all of you. We've got Bijan that's been picked. We've got Gibbs that's been picked. And then we have Chase, Puka, and JSN. We're seeing CMC coming up now for the 6. CMC coming up now at 6. I think CMC makes sense. I think you're going to see Devon Achane up here. I think you're going to see Jonathan Taylor up here. There's a vote for Achane. So we have 2 CMCs and an Achane right now. Achane finishing as an RB2 in every single game this season. At least. I'm sorry. At least an RB2. So what we got? 1, 2, 3, 4 for CMC. 1, 2 for Achane right now. Who else wants to chime in? I think we can probably go back to back here. I think we can probably say that we would go CMC and Achane. It looks like the majority of people are going to vote for CMC. So we're going to go CMC at 6. We're going to go Achane at 7. And then this is where I think we start to see the run on running backs. Because y'all are picking CMC at 6. I'll go with Achane at 7. And then at 8, is this where Jonathan Taylor goes? Is this where James Cook goes? For the wide receiver position, can you put Justin Jefferson this high? Do you go with CeeDee Lamb? Do you go with Amon-Ra St. Brown? Do we operate under the assumption that Malik Neighbors is going to be fine? If he is, does Malik Neighbors go all the way up here? You just heard me talk about how much I love them. Derrick Henry. Is Derrick Henry going this high? This is where I think we start to see a little bit of a difference in opinion. And just to remind everyone, we've got Bijan at 1, Gibbs at 2, Chase at 3, Puka at 4, JSN at 5, CMC at 6, Achane at 7. And I'm seeing Cook, Brad Cook, Jared Cook, Brian Cook, Papa J Cook. Malik Neighbors will not be fine. It's concerning. I'm going to give it more time. I don't want to jump to conclusions based off just that. Who knows if maybe he didn't like tweak something weird in rehab and was just, I don't know. So are we okay with voting for James Cook at number 8? Are we good with James Cook at number 8? TJ wants to vote for JT. OEG voted for JT. Josh, tell Jake I say hi. I will definitely message him. I'll let him know for sure. Miranda says JT. So now it's starting to close the gap a little bit. Do we want to go with JT or do we want to go with James Cook at number 8? We've got some JTs and we've got some Cooks. If you got a reason why, let us know too. We could go Cook and JT back to back here, the same way that we did with CMC and Achane. We could go Cook at 8. We could go 9 with JT. Philly's throwing out a vote for Barkley. So let's go with Cook at 8. We'll go with JT at 9. Who are we going with at 10? What do we think about Ashton Genty? What about Saquon Barkley? Bucky Irving was solid when he was healthy. Chase Brown? Should Chase Brown be inside the first round this year? What about Josh Jacobs? What about Derrick Henry? At the wide receiver position, we still have Justin Jefferson. We still have CeeDee Lamb. We still have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Drake London, Nico Collins, George Pickens. We picked Chase already. Chase was number 3. I researched, and it's happened to me 2 times. Every time I draft Devon Achane and Cooks, I only make the championship games in second place out of 14 people in my draft. Hey, 2 out of 14 still is not bad. Ooh, TJ says CeeDee Lamb. OEG says CeeDee Lamb. SB says CeeDee Lamb. WJM wants to go Sun God before JT. Ron Gertiza wants Amon-Ra St. Brown. Papa J says CeeDee Lamb. Would we take Amon-Ra St. Brown over JT? WJM wants to know. If we could put Amon-Ra St. Brown at 9 and move JT to 10. And then we would put CeeDee Lamb at 11. Do we want to do that? I would not draft any tight ends in the first round. I think people are going to go crazy for Trey McBride next year. And while I understand why, I'm not drafting him in the first round. So we can do this one of 2 ways. And let me know in the chat. We only have 2, and we're going to put this as a poll. Let's put this as a poll. Do we want to do 9 JT, 10 Lamb, 11 Amon-Ra St. Brown? Or do we want to do 9 Amon-Ra St. Brown, 10 JT, 11 Lamb? Go ahead and vote on it. I get it, Brad. 100%. Jeremiah Love could end up being very good, but it really depends on where he lands. What do we got right now? 4 votes in, 50-50 on the poll. Everybody vote. How are we going to go ahead and put this in? 6 votes in, 7 votes in. 71% to Amon-Ra St. Brown, JT, and Lamb in that order. So click on the poll. Vote in the poll. We're at 11 votes, 12 votes. It just switched. Now, JT at 9, Lamb at 10, Amon-Ra St. Brown at 11 is up to 64%. Now 60%. These videos are going to make the busy season way better. I'm glad people like the live stream. I think I might test out a live stream at night as well. And I might do a live stream every once in a while at night on the weeks that my kids are not with me. So then I don't have to take too much time away from them. Although I am right now because they got a snow day today. Absolutely. These lists will change for sure. 17 votes. We're going to put JT at 9. We're going to put Lamb at 10. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown at 11. So let's finish out the first round. Let's finish out the first round, okay? Who are we going to put at 12? Right now, we have Bijan, Gibbs, Chase, Puka, JSN, CMC, Achane, Cook, JT, Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Who are we going to go at number 12? Who are we going to go at 12? I'm not picking a tight end. We've got Saquon, Bucky, Barkley. Or we got Saquon, Bucky, Henry, Justin Jefferson, Drake London, Malik Neighbors. OEG saying Genty. I don't hate the thought process there. Philly's saying Barkley. Brad is saying Genty. TJ wants Jacobs. Genty for Morinda. Genty is winning right now. Chase Brown. Maybe we should put it to another poll, too. Let's go with Genty, Barkley, oh, my YouTube might crash. Maybe not. Genty, Barkley. Who were our other options that we're looking at? Henry, Jacobs. Okay, let's start with this poll right here. Vote in the poll. Vote in the poll. If they draft Mendoza, does it really matter if they don't improve the offensive line? I think that's a question we should ask ourselves. Mendoza could end up being very solid. I'm not sold on Mendoza being a superstar as of right now. I think Mendoza is closer to a Kirk Cousins than anything. But after the playoffs are done, we're going to have tons of scouting stuff that will be coming out. So right now with 14 votes in, Genty's winning with 50% of the votes. With 14 votes in, Genty is winning with 50% of the votes. So we're going to go Genty at 12. We're going to go Genty at 12. Does that mean that Saquon Barkley is the 2025 version of CMC in 2026? How many people are going to get insane discounts on Saquon Barkley as a potential second round pick and get top 5 upside the same way that CMC was this past year? The same way that CMC was this past year. I think that could end up happening. And we crashed. We've just brought way too much fire. We've brought way too much fire to the screen today. I think that's what happened. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and bounce on out of here today. I appreciate everybody for tuning into this live stream. My goal is I want this live stream to grow. And unfortunately, right now, the numbers are trending down since the first video. And I would like them to be trending up. So, hey, tell your friends in Discord. Make sure you're checking out Headliners Unfiltered. I'm going to try maybe doing some during the nights. I'm going to try maybe doing some night streams as well to get some more people involved that maybe can't watch during the day. Maybe we'll play around with the time and maybe we'll do it a little bit more towards the afternoon, evening hours. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But keep coming back, please. Keep coming back. I believe in this show. I want it to work. And I want us to keep doing this all off season long. And I love doing things when I know the nation loves doing them as well. Ladies and gentlemen, appreciate everybody today. I will not see you until Monday, so enjoy the games this weekend. Hopefully all of your underdog pick'ems win. Hopefully all of your teams win that you're rooting for. Have a great weekend. Stay safe and stay healthy. And I'll catch you all on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.